Chapter 10 from West African Folk Tales by William H. Barker. Read for LibriVox.org by Esther. Why spiders are always found in the corners of ceilings. Igiya Anansi was a very skillful farmer. He, with his wife and son, set to work one year to prepare a farm much larger than any they had previously worked. They planted it with yams, maize, and beans, and were rewarded by a very rich crop. Their harvest was quite 10 times greater than any they had ever had before. Igiya Anansi was very well pleased when he saw his wealth of corn and beans. He was, however, an exceedingly selfish and greedy man, who never liked to share anything, even with his own wife and son. When he saw that the crops were quite ripe, he thought of a plan whereby he alone would profit from them. He called his wife and son to him, and spoke thus: "We have all 3 worked exceedingly hard to prepare these fields. They have well repaid us. We will now gather in the harvest and pack it away in our barns. When that is done, we shall be in need of a rest. I propose that you and our son should go back to our home in the village, and remain there at your ease for 2 or 3 weeks. I have to go to the coast on very urgent business. When I return, we will all come to the farm and enjoy our well-earned feast." Anansi's wife and son thought this a very good, sensible plan, and at once agreed to it. They went straight back to their village, leaving the cunning husband to start on his journey. Needless to say, he had not the slightest intention of so doing. Instead, he built himself a very comfortable hut near the farm, supplied it with all manner of cooking utensils, gathered in a large store of the corn and vegetables from the barn, and prepared for a solitary feast. This went on for a fortnight. By that time Anansi's son began to think it was time for him to go and weed the farm, lest the weeds should grow too high. He accordingly went there and worked several hours on it. While passing the barn he happened to look in. Great was his surprise to see that more than half of their magnificent harvest had gone. He was greatly disturbed, thinking robbers had been at work, and wondered how he could prevent further mischief. Returning to the village, he told the people there what had happened, and they helped to make a rubber man. When evening came they carried the sticky figure to the farm, and placed it in the midst of the fields to frighten away the thieves. Some of the young men remained with Anansi's son to watch in one of the barns. When all was dark, Igiya Anansi, quite unaware of what had happened, came as usual out of his hiding place to fetch more food. On his way to the barn he saw in front of him the figure of a man, and at first felt very frightened. Finding that the man did not move, however, he gained confidence and went up to him. "What do you want here?" said he. There was no answer. He repeated his question with the same result. Anansi then became very angry, and dealt the figure a blow on the cheek with his right hand. Of course his hand stuck fast to the rubber. "How dare you hold my hand?" he exclaimed. "Let me go at once, or I shall hit you again." Then he hit the figure with his left hand, which also stuck. He tried to disengage himself by pushing against it with his knees and body, until finally knees, body, hands, and head were all firmly attached to the rubber man. There Igiya Anansi had to stay until daybreak, when his son came out with the other villagers to catch the robber. They were astonished to find that the evildoer was Anansi himself. He, on the other hand, was so ashamed to be caught in the act of greediness that he changed into a spider, and took refuge in the dark corner of the ceiling, lest any one should see him. Since then spiders have always been found in dark, dusty corners, where people are not likely to notice them. End of chapter 10. This recording is in the public domain.